Hi guys, this video is over using the Reaper master recording template to track at front of house the weekend services. So let's get to that. So I am remotely connected to the Reaper machine, formerly known as Sanctuary 3 or PC3, whatever you want to call it. And there's just a few short things we need to go through to use this for the normal weekend operation. So I've created a folder on the desktop called Look Here NH Reaper Master Template, and it has some exclamation points around it. Go ahead and click into that guy. And once we open that, we'll see two files. The one labeled Reaper Project File is the one that I want you to double click. So just double click that. And then as it opens, what you're going to see is you'll see a recording grid and you'll see channels over on the left-hand side. And all of the channels that are used in a normal weekend scenario are already recording ARM enabled, meaning they're gonna write to hard drive space as soon as we press record. All right, so once we do that, we can see, you can look down through here, and they're all color-coded appropriately with the front of house console's current configuration, and so on and so forth. So if I wanted to unarm for whatever reason, the red mic and the white mic were not used for this weekend service to preserve some disk space, you could do that. It's just as simple as clicking the arm on or off button. And as we scroll down here, you can see that we have an exhaustive track count for really about any scenario you guys would run into. And these are already pre-programmed to come out of the console. So for instance, if for some reason you had a flute or a clarinet one weekend, you could just recording ARM enable those and be off to the races with those channels appropriately matching the iLive front of house console. All right, so you can see that there's 64 channels built here because that's the capability we have coming out of the front of house console. All right, so once I've done this, what I want to do is just open, and then I want to save my project as its own entity because we don't want to save over the master template. And we are always going to, let me blow this up a little bit. We are always going to save to the tracking drive D, all right? So create a new folder, and I just have been using NH tracks and then contemporary or traditional, we'll call it testing. And what's the date today? 8/25/20. And then the same thing, we'll go into that folder and we'll call that the same thing. All right, so our project file and our folder are going to reflect the same thing because it's really hard to go back and find your tracks if you don't use a good naming convention for each project. It's very difficult to do that. So take the time to do this. And then I'm going to save that. And you'll see the name up top change to NH Tracks Testing 8/25/20. Now, if we had some sources playing into the Reaper file, we would see those. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and press record. So here we go. And we can see a grid starting to form here. And if it was a live production weekend, we would see our, from the training class, the waveforms write to disk in here, and we would see those inputs happening. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to go enable that so we can see that. So what we have going on here now is I started an audio source from PC1. So if we look down here now, we got this tracking to disk, and there's our wonderful little waveforms and our input signals. We would see this for anything that would be armed active tracking to disk. And so when we're done with that, we can just simply press stop, and then we're presented with select files to save or delete. Well, these are all the WAV files that we just recorded, so we're going to want to save those, especially if we're using those for review purposes at a later time. And we'll just choose Save All. And then once we're done, if we select Save Project, we can close this out. All right, and so now if one final step here, just reviewing, if we go into the tracking drive and look at what we just did, NHTracks testing, and we open that, we see these WAV files in here, and we will also see our project file. All right, so we can open that back up, and we'll see everything that we just did. Excuse me, let me reset that. That was the backup file. We need the project file. There is a difference. It's probably hiding in here somewhere. Right here. And that's going to populate back in those tracks right there that we just saw. All right, that concludes this video on how to use Reaper and record a service on the weekend. Thank you.